Okay, this is Algebra 1, test number 9, study guide. We got through variables on both sides, lesson 3.4. This is part number 2, picking up on number 12. We have 6 times y minus 7 equals negative 12. You have to distribute 6 times y and 6 times negative 7. Positive times a negative is a negative. Now the left side simplified, so start undoing the problem. Remember, when you undo it, you work your order of operations backwards. Undo minus 42 by adding 42. If you add it to the left, add it to the right. Negative 12 plus 42. You have to subtract the absolute values. 42 minus 12 is the number 30. And 42 is the larger absolute value. It's positive, so 30 is going to remain positive. This part right here is going to be canceled out, and you have 6 times y comes down. After you undid the minus 42, you undo multiplication and division next. So undo 6 times something by dividing by 6. If you do it to the left, again, do it to the right. 30 divided by 6 is the number 5, and 6 divided by 6 cancels itself out. Y's value, therefore, is 5. Number 13, again, you're undoing any addition and subtraction first. So undo plus 7 by subtracting it. If you do it to the left, do it to the right. Negative 11 minus 7. You're adding the absolute values now. 11 and 7 is 18, and you're keeping the common sign negative. Equals 7 minus 7 canceled out. That's why we did that. You still have 3p, and you still have over 4. Remember, that fraction bar acts like a set of parentheses, so before you can undo 3 times that, you have to undo divide by 4. If you divide by 4 in order to cancel it out, you multiply by 4. 4 cancels out 4. 3p is left. We still don't have p's value. We're getting closer, though. If you multiply the left by 4, you have to multiply the right by 4. 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 1 is 4, plus the 3 that we had to borrow is 7. And a positive times a negative, opposite signs is always going to be negative. Then undo 3 times something by dividing by 3. If you divide the left by 3, you have to divide the right by 3. 3 goes into the number 7 twice, and there's a 1 left over, so 3 goes into the number 12 4 times, and a negative divided by a positive, opposite signs, is going to be negative 24. 3 divided by 3 cancels itself out. P is negative 24. Number 14 says you are driving a friend in another state, driving to visit a friend in another state who lives 440 miles away. You're driving 55 miles per hour, and you have already driven 275 miles. Write and solve an equation to find how much longer in hours you must drive to reach your destination. Well, in order to find that out, we have to find out how much more distance we still have to go. We know it was 440 miles total, but you have to subtract 440 miles minus the 275 you already drove. So when you borrow that, it becomes 3. 10 minus 5 is 5. Borrow again becomes 3. 13 minus 7 is 6. You still have 165 miles to go. This is your distance. Distance is 165. Your rate is how fast you're going, 55 miles an hour. It says to find out how much longer in hours, we can even include that, that's going to be our time. So if the distance equals rate times time, or distance equals rate times time, in order to find out what our time is, or our t, we can convert this formula to make it say t equals, just like the one we did a few minutes ago. Undo that by dividing by what's not t. And what's not t in this case is r. If you divide the right side by r, you do the same to the left side. So t is equal to distance divided by rate. This is the formula we want to use. All we have to do is plug it in. Therefore, when it says to create or write and solve an equation, we're plugging it in to solve an equation. So our distance, we said our new value was 165 miles. Our rate, they told us right away, was 55 miles per hour. Miles cancels out miles. Notice we have one thing left, hours. That's correct. That's what we're trying to get. That's a time measurement. So 165 divided by 55 is going to be our t. So our time is going to be 3. And again, the only unit left over is hours. Number 15 says a customer went to a garden shop and bought potting soil for $16 and 7 shrubs. The total bill was $89.50. Write and solve an equation to find the price of each shrub. Price of each shrub, we're trying to find something that's got to be a variable, X or S or whatever you want to use. We know there are 7 of the shrubs, so it's going to be 7 times whatever that value is, X. We know that together with the potting soil that costed $16, that means that you're adding those up. So potting soil plus 7 times this amount for each shrub is going to be equal to our total $89.50. So now we have a very simple equation. Start undoing it in order to get X by itself. Subtract $16. If you do it to the left, subtract $16 on the right. $89.50 minus $16 is going to be $73.50. This is going to cancel itself out. So 7 times X is $73.50. And when you divide by the 7 that's being multiplied, you have to do the same to the other side. X is going to be equal to $10.50. So what that says, since X's value is $10.50 and the price of each shrub was X, therefore, each of the shrubs cost $10.50. Name the property shown. It's addition, so it's going to be of addition for sure. Notice nothing changes. 4 plus X, plus 12 becomes 12 plus 4. The only thing that changes is their position. They move from one part to the other part, or they commute. Therefore, that is the commutative property of addition. Is the given number a solution of the equation? So you're checking to see if when you plug in 0, you get a true statement. 15 minus 0 is 12. No, not a solution. 15 minus 0 would be 15. Number 18, solving these very simple one-step equations. Minus 5 in order to cancel it out. 13 minus 5 is 8 is M. Plus 7 to cancel it out. Again, very simple equations. X equals 21. Once you start doing the other stuff, this stuff you can go very quick and very easily through. Undo minus 4 by adding 4. If you add it to the left, do the same to the right. T equals, if you have to, do it this way. You start at negative 6 plus 4 means you're going to go this direction 1, 2, 3, 4 times. That's negative 2. Or subtract the absolute value. 6 minus 4 is 2. Keep the common or keep the larger absolute value sign. 21 says y plus a negative 3. Plus a negative, anytime you have that, means minus. So y minus 3 equals negative 11. We know how to undo minus something. You add it. So if you add 3, do the same to the other side. Again, opposite signs, subtract them. 11 minus 7, now minus 3 is going to be 8, and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. Y is negative 8. Before you can undo number 22, you have to combine negative 27 and negative 36. You have to combine the like terms. They're the same sign. They're both negative, so add them. 6 and 7 is 13. Carry your 1. 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 1 is 6, so we have 63, and keep the common sign negative. N minus 63 equals negative 65. Then cancel out minus 63 by adding it. You add it to the left, add it to the right. Opposite signs this time, subtract them. N is equal to 65 minus 63 is 2. Then keep the sign of the larger absolute value. N equals negative 2. 23, simplifying these expressions. Anytime you have minus a negative, it means plus a positive. Negative 6.7 plus 6.9 is going to be 0.2 plus 3.2 is 3.4 when you combine them. The absolute value of negative 16 minus 14. Do negative 16 minus 14. Again, same signs, so add them up. 16 and 14, you get 30, and keep the common sign, the negative. So bring down to 30. But remember, it's the absolute values. So what it's talking about is how far away from 0 is it. It's a distance, which is never a negative number. So any negative value becomes positive in that case. A positive 1.2 times a negative 6.9 is going to be a negative value. And then just multiply them. If you have to stack them, do that. 12 and 69. 9 times 2 is 18. Carry your 1. 9 times 1 is 1. 9 plus 1 is 10. Placeholder 6 times 2 is 12. Carry your 1. 6 times 1 plus 1 is 7. 8, 2, 8. And then you have 2 decimal places to move. 1 for this one and 1 for that one. So once, twice. It's a negative value again, 8.28. (26) is negative 4 to the 5th power. Remember, this is not the same thing as negative 4 to the 5th power. You're not raising the negative 4 to the 5th power. You're simply doing 4 times itself 5 times. 3, 4, 5. So if you have to do it this way, 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 4 is 16 times 4. And then do 16 times 16 times 4. Just to speed us up a little bit, we get 1,024. And don't forget at the end, there's a negative that comes down in front of it to give you a negative 1,024. For number 27, there's a 1/2 outside of the parentheses, so it needs to be distributed. 1/2 times 32m. Half of 32 is 16m. 1/2 times 16. Again, half of 16 is plus 8. 16m plus 8. Number 28 says 6 divided by negative 6. A positive divided by a negative. One opposite sign is an odd amount. That means it's going to be negative at the end. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Number 29 says negative 14z minus 14z, minus 4z. Same signs, add up the absolute values. 14 plus 4 is 18z. And keep the common sign, which is negative. It's not like number 28, where when you multiply numbers, where you go with the opposite signs are going to be negative. When they're the same like this, you keep the common sign. 30 and 31 are naming the properties. This one right here, let's change this one, everybody. Instead of saying 2 times 0.5, let's make it say 2 times 1/2 equals 1, and that's just a little bit easier. It's the exact same thing. Remember, we had this conversation a couple tests ago. What operation is that? Multiplying by the reciprocal is the same thing as dividing. So this is the inverse property, because the inverse of multiplying is dividing. That's the inverse property. 7 plus 8 plus 3 equals 7 plus 8 plus 3. Notice where your parentheses are on the first side or the left side. It's around 8 plus 3. Then notice where they are on the right side. It's around 7 plus 8. Nothing else changes except the grouping or the association of the numbers. So this is the associative property of addition. Number 32 says write 9 times 9 using an exponent. So 9 times itself 2 times is 9 squared. Number 33 says 3/12 divided by 3/8. That's division in case it looks like addition on your paper. You leave the first fraction alone. You change division to multiplication, and you flip it to make it say the reciprocal, 8/3. Now at this point you can cross cancel 3/3 just to save yourself a little headache. And you could even cross cancel the 8 and the 12 because the number 4 goes into 8 2 times and the number 4 goes into 12 3 times. So ultimately you're going to get 2/3. If you went ahead and multiplied straight across, you would have gotten 24/36, which 12 would have went into both of them to gotten you right back to the number 2/3. And then the last one says solve 9 times 701 using the distributive property. 9 times 700 plus 1 is using the distributive property. 9 times 700, we know 9 times 7 is 63, and then just make it say 100. And then plus 9 times 1 is plus 9, 6,309. That's using the distributive property.